Now, this is chapter number 5, Matthew's New Testament. This chapter 5 is very important because in this chapter, Jesus Christ is stating that He is not coming out with anything new, with any new book. He is simply following the previous book. He is not negating whatever books, whatever commandments were there in the Semitic culture, but he is simply coming as a complementary. He is not at all going to destroy or delete any sentence, any verses whichever is already there in the Torah, or what we call Old Testament. And also Jesus by now is having scores of disciples and followers, and therefore Jesus is witnessing that people are following him, people are being impressed by him. So he went to the mountainside and sat down, and disciples came to him, and then he began to preach. He said that blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see the God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world, and town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. And these are very good things which Jesus has told. There is nothing which can be criticized or which can be scrutinized. Everything is very nice and good. And now that the very important thing is the verse number 17. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law of prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. This verse he is telling, and he is convincing the people that he is not taking away their festivals, taking away their cults, traditions, and whatever law with which they are living. He is not going to abolish any of them, but he is simply fulfilling them. He is adding something to what already exists, or emphasizing the same thing which has already been told. So in that way he is working hard to ensure that he would not be arrested or persecuted, as already the John the Baptist is already in prison. So he would not want the same fate for him. Therefore he is telling this thing, that do not think that I have come to abolish the already existing laws which Jewish people are following. Now, the next verse, verse number 18. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, nor the least stroke of pen will by any means disappear from the law, until everything is accomplished. So he is telling that those laws which are already existing cannot be erased, cannot be deleted, and these will exist till the eternity. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So, Jesus, as we have already seen in the previous chapter, that he was tempted by Satan, tempted by evil spirit, but he was able to overcome. But here he is giving temptation to his followers that if you follow these commands of the Old Testament, commands of the Torah, commands of the already existing books of the Jews, then you will have a good place in the kingdom of heaven. But if you don't follow, then you will not be, there will not be any kind of reception in the kingdom of heaven. For that it is clarified what will happen to them, what will happen to those peoples who don't follow. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of Pharisees. Pharisees were the priests. There were two kinds of priestly classes in Judaism in those days, Pharisees and Sadducees. So while Sadducees were strictly following the written law of the Jews, Judaistic culture, but Pharisees were following written law as well as some of the oral traditions. So Sadducees were just like, you can say it could have been the difference like Shia and Sunni in the Muslims. But now the Pharisees were considered a little bit superior to Sadducees because they were following the oral traditions as well. So he is telling his followers that you will have to surpass your righteousness over and above that of Pharisees. And if you do so, then you will enter in the kingdom of heaven. But if you don't do that, then you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Then he is telling about the laws with respect to the murder. You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, you shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka means empty-headed. Anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka, is answerable to the court, and anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. So he is telling, of course, this is a very good thing which is telling that you should not murder, because whosoever is doing the sin will be judged by the God, and he will have to face the fire of the hell. So he is against the killing of the people. Whatever crime they have done, still one should not kill them, and that is a very, very good thing which Jesus Christ has told. Now, verse number 23. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. So, I mean to say, if you are going to the God, then your mind should be free from any kind of animosity. If you have animus against any person, first reconcile that and then come to the God. So that's a very good preaching. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to the court. Do it while you are still together in the way, or your adversary may hand over to the judge, and judge may hand over to the officer, and you may be thrown into the prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. He is telling, if you fight with a person, then quickly reconcile that fight. Otherwise, what will happen, that one of the two persons who are fighting with each other will go to the court, and court will call you, and it will be a labyrinthine process in the court, and then police, and then jail, and all these things, and it will be very difficult to come out of that. By the time you will come out, you will be discovered that the prime time of your life is gone. So this is also very, very good. Adultery, regarding adultery, you have heard it was said in this verse number 27, you shall not commit adultery. Adultery means if the person is in a married life and then one of the husband or wife is having relations with another woman or man. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. The verse number 28 of the chapter number 5 is one of the best of the entire New Testament. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. That what he is meaning here is that if you are not criminal because you did a particular crime. You have thought that you are going to do a particular crime, then you are a criminal. You have not committed that crime because you don't have the opportunity, you don't have the space, you don't have the convenient time to do that. So, as far as adultery is concerned, if a person is seeing a woman with lust, then he has committed crime against that woman. Of course, he is not physically done, but in the mind, he has done that crime. And again, he's saying, if your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of the body than your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than your whole body to go into the hell. So this is something which cannot stand now. But he is telling that you better to refrain from doing wrong things, refrain from seeing anyone with anger, anyone with animosity, anyone with lust. And if your eye is responsible for that, it is better to take out the eye. But it is actually metaphorical. It doesn't mean that you really take it out, but it is better to avoid such things. And with your hand, you are not going to do anything wrong to anyone else. So, there is nothing wrong with that. Divorce. It has been said anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife except for sexual immorality makes her the victim of adultery. If you divorces your wife who is chaste, then it will be very difficult for that woman to live a livelihood, and you are forcing her to become sexually immoral. If she was not in the beginning while she was your wife, but you have divorced her, so it is encouraging her to become sexually immoral. And anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. This is, of course, something which cannot stand with the modern laws. A divorced woman, there can be several reasons for divorce. Even if the woman is being divorced because she has been sexually immoral, but if she repents and she marries again, then she should be allowed, of course. Nevertheless, now coming to the oaths. Again, you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made. But I tell you, do not swear on the oath at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair white or black. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. So this is very, very important. It is telling that while you are promising something, you should not take the name of anyone. You should not swear by you, swear by anyone else, swear by God, swear by Jerusalem, swear by any. You should simply say, yes, I have given you, I have taken 100 rupees from you and I will return you. That's it, finished. And there's nothing. And if you have some pact of friendship between the two kingdoms or between the two persons, the two entities, then you simply say yes or no. Nothing else. No oath, no, nothing else. Eye for eye. You have heard that it was said eye for eye and tooth for tooth, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. This is clear ad verbatim, word by word, copied from what Gautam Buddha has preached 600 years before Jesus Christ. That if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. This shows there, in major part, all the teachings of Jesus Christ has great impact of Buddhism over it. Now, Gospel number 14. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go to 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. Love for enemy. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. He is telling that you should love your enemy as well. And this is a very good. He is giving the example of the rain. The drop of rain is falling on the good person, on the bad person. It is falling on you. It is falling on your enemy also. It is giving happiness to all the persons, irrespective of their being righteous or unrighteous. So, in the same way, you should love your neighbor, you should love your friend, as well as you should love your enemy. And this is a very good thing. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Or not even the tax collector is doing that. Tax collector is collecting the tax, and in return they are making roads, they are making drainage and other things for you. So it is give and take, and it is. And moreover, if you love your parents, if you love your children, that is a common thing. The important thing is that you should love something who are not related to you in any way. And even if the person is enemy, still you should love him. And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that. Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. So here there is a mention of pagan. Pagan are those peoples who are not Jews, who are not following the Judaism. And there is, in this sentence, there is a disdain for those peoples who are not following the Judaism tradition, who are not Jews by race, in other words. So be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. So this is what this chapter is all about. And in this chapter, you have seen the most important thing what Jesus is telling is that he is not creating any dissension, he is not coming up with anything new. He is simply following the same thing which has already been told, is adding something new. Something new is what? You should love your enemy. By this way, he is trying to give the impression to the Roman governors and their vassals that I am a genuine person and do not persecute me. Let me do what I want to do. So with that, I finish it here.